The garden at the end of war. The battlefield was quiet for the first time in years. The Serathi delegation arrived in solemn silence, their elongated forms draped in veils of morning crystal. Every footfall chimed against the scorched soil, the crystalline fragments they carried glittering with captured starlight. To them, war ended not with cheers, but with ceremony. They were here to build a garden, not of flesh or soil, but of memory. Each shard would be placed in silence, each pattern aligned to honor those lost. The garden would become a frozen song of grief, unchanging, eternal. When the humans arrived, the Serathi expected reverence. They expected silence. Instead, the humans stepped down from their transports laughing and crying all at once, voices raised as though the battlefield were a tavern after victory. They carried no crystals, no veils. Instead, they dragged sacks of strange brown grit and tins of seeds. And when the Serathi placed their first shard into the soil, the humans dropped to their knees, digging into the sacred ground with bare hands. The Serathi stood in stunned horror as dirt flew, laughter boomed, and human tears fell like rain. And then, one Serathi elder hissed the unthinkable. "They are desecrating the dead." The Serathi delegation froze, their delicate hands clutching shards meant for mourning. Desecration was unthinkable. To disrupt a memorial was to dishonor every spirit within it. Yet the humans did not seem to notice. One of them, broad of shoulder, scarred across the jaw, sat in the dirt, telling a story of a comrade who had once sung off-key during a firefight. Another laughed, tears streaking down his face as he recalled how his friend had sworn the rations tasted like burnt boots and sadness. They spoke not in whispers, but in booming voices, shaking the air with their grief and mirth alike. And as they spoke, they pressed seeds into the dirt, pouring water from canisters, working the soil as though it were alive. The Serathi delegation watched in rigid silence. Their leader, Elder Varesh, raised his crystalline veil and whispered to his peers, "If this continues, their chaos will shatter the lattice of memory. We must stop them." But when he stepped forward to confront the humans, something unexpected happened. One of the humans, a woman with dirt-stained hands, looked up at him with wet eyes and smiled. "Come sit," she said. "Tell us about your fallen." Elder Varesh froze. To speak aloud of the dead, was that not forbidden? The Serathi recoiled. Their mourning was meant to be silent, a stillness of the spirit. To speak of the dead aloud was to disturb their rest. And yet, these humans tore silence apart, filling the air with laughter, sobs, and stories until the battlefield pulsed with memory made flesh. Varesh turned away, too shaken to respond. The humans continued regardless, voices rising like storm winds. Days passed. The Serathi placed their crystal shards with trembling care, forming flawless patterns across the soil. Beside them, the humans knelt in the dirt, their seeds buried in haphazard rows. Sweat poured from them as they labored, hands blistered, nails cracked. Still they persisted. The Serathi whispered among themselves, "They cannot stop. Even in grief, they fight." One night, as the Serathi traced a lattice of memory under starlight, they overheard a human child's voice. She sat with her mother, humming softly while placing a tiny seed into the ground. "What grows here will be for Uncle Theo," she whispered. He liked green things. The Serathi could not look away. For the first time, they wondered, was this desecration or a different kind of honor? The days turned into weeks. The Serathi finished their crystalline lattice, a shimmering tapestry of memory across the scarred battlefield. To them, it was complete, still, silent, perfect. The humans, however, continued to return, carrying buckets of water, guarding their strange planted rows against wind and scavenger beasts. Their voices filled the air at every visit, telling stories of their fallen, sometimes shouting into the sky as though daring the stars themselves to forget. The Serathi tried to ignore them. Their garden was finished, their mourning properly contained. But something gnawed at them. Why did the humans persist? What did they hope to achieve by clawing at the dirt? Elder Varesh, restless, returned one night alone. The battlefield was silent, save for the soft sound of wind across crystal shards. He expected stillness. Instead, he saw the soil where humans had labored shifting. Cracks in the dirt revealed tiny spears of green life. He staggered back, horrified. Nothing should grow here. The soil was poisoned, the air still heavy with the scars of war. Yet these stubborn shoots pushed upward, defying ruin itself. And for the first time, Viresh whispered aloud. What are they? By the next dawn, the Serathi delegation stood in shock. The battlefield, once sterile, now shimmered with two memorials: the perfect crystal lattice of the Serathi and the scattered, fragile green shoots of the humans. The contrast was unbearable: stillness against growth, silence against laughter, memory frozen against memory reborn. Some Serathi wailed that it was blasphemy. They corrupt our sacred ways, cried one. Their chaos consumes all. But others could not look away from the stubborn plants breaking through dead earth. Against all reason, life had taken root. The humans noticed the Serathi watching. Their scarred leader grinned through his dirt-streaked face and held up a tiny sprout cupped in his calloused palm. This one, he said, voice cracking, is for Daniels. He always said we'd find a way to make this rock grow something worth eating. The Serathi flinched at the rawness of his voice, the openness of his grief. To pour sorrow into growth rather than silence. It was madness. Terrifying madness. But as the days passed, more shoots appeared. And with them came color, scent, and the faint hum of buzzing insects the humans had somehow released into the air. The battlefield was no longer dead. It was becoming something else. The Serathi could no longer deny it. The humans had transformed the garden. Crystals caught the dawn light, reflecting flawless lattices of memory. Between them, vines twined upward, leaves brushing against sacred shards as though claiming kinship. Flowers bloomed, bright yellows, reds, and purples that filled the air with scent. It was unbearable and mesmerizing. Elder Viresh, torn between outrage and awe, finally confronted the scarred human leader. Why do you do this? Viresh demanded. Why can you not leave memory in silence? The human looked at him, dirt still clinging to his nails. His eyes were tired but burning. Because silence forgets, he said. We carry them forward. Every laugh, every tear, every seed. It's them, still here with us. The Serathi delegation recoiled. To live with grief as a companion rather than seal it away. To feed memory into life itself? Such a thing was monstrous. Such a thing was unstoppable. And yet, when Viresh looked upon the mingling of crystal and flower, he felt something his people had never known in mourning. He felt hope. Weeks later, the battlefield no longer resembled a scar at all. The crystalline lattice remained, fragile, glittering, unbroken. But now, green vines coiled through it, flowers blooming between shards, roots anchoring into the soil. Insects hummed. Birds, brought by the humans in cages, took wing, their songs weaving through Serathi silence. The Serathi delegation returned and stood transfixed. Their garden of stillness had not been destroyed. It had been transformed. Terrifying, yes, for the humans did not merely preserve memory. They forced it forward, into new shapes, into growth that could not be undone. Even grief became a seed in their hands. Elder Viresh bowed his head, whispering words his people had never spoken before. They do not bury their dead. They carry them. The Serathi felt fear then, not of destruction, but of the humans themselves. A species that refused to let anything remain still. A species that turned ashes into roots, silence into song, endings into beginnings. And yet, as they gazed at the mingled garden, fear became something else. It became reverence. The garden at the end of war stood not as one people's monument, but as two. A frozen lattice of crystal and a riot of living color, grief and hope bound together. The Serathi understood then. The humans were not desecrators. They were gardeners of the future.